Over the last 10 episodes of In the Trenches, we've had some of the best GTM operators strip down what actually happens when you're building a function from scratch. This week, we're pulling together some of the best moments from the recordings. We'll focus on hot takes, controversial opinions, everything that doesn't make it into the script. We'll be back next week with a second clip show, and from there on out, regular programming. Let's get into it.
We're rolling? Sweet. Now my day starts.
VCs, founders, operators. I think there's an absolute black box between your VCs and your operators. How many times in my years of being an operator did I ever have a VC speak to me? Never. Anytime I see in the office asking, interested in how the business is running, actually, no. It's only fed through the narrative of the founder. Never. So it's a complete black box. Do they, I would say that I'm not for everyone, because there are exceptions, but for the vast majority of VCs, do they actually have any idea what it's like on the ground as an operator in their portfolio? I have no idea, personally.
What about the funds that have operator background? Because there are a few, right? That actually, that's also what's
again, they sit on a board, engage with the founder, and the founders are often, again, not every startup, absolutely not.
No, yeah, I get you.
They're super tightly controlling the narrative that was up to the investors. About the revenue figures, or about churn and headcount. It's like it's all really kind of it's microscopically managed so that I can manage the expectations and the narratives towards the investor. No, I've so often seen such a disconnect, massive disconnect from like what it feels like on the ground, what the traction actually is on the ground versus a kind of VC narrative, and it's just. And often you get this kind of this artificial inflation of like top-down targets. It's like, oh, maybe you're 10 million ARR, and VC's like, yeah, like to be in top perform, you have to be 50. And it's like, all right, suddenly targets are 50. And often, and especially scale-ups, there's hardly any kind of bottoms-up planning that gets any merit relative to what's top-down, and it's arbitrary. And I think
is it arbitrary? Don't you feel like a lot of VCs are now starting to use real data to derive that, or would you say that it's
not that I've seen? No, that I've seen. No, I've seen. Okay. I still think it's arbitrary. Yeah, I would say there is an absolute disconnect between operate. Like I say, until I really started to do my own thing, I think I'd maybe never spoken to a VC. So maybe 10 years of being an operator, I don't think I'd ever spoken to the VC.
But do you think that's a factor of like the whole triple, double mentality, where it's like, hey, okay, for you to be the next Wiz or Cursor, I don't even want to use that example because I feel like the AI multiples are through the roof. So like no one knows what good looks like. But
yeah, the point is that a comparison thing, it's like, we're focused on outliers, constantly focused on outliers. And it's such a paradox. It's like, hey, I can see VCs like, oh, I want to focus, I'm only investing in outliers, and here's how you identify outliers. I was like, all right, so you're focusing on outliers, but you're telling us there's a repeatable methodology to have an outlier. So if there's a repeatable methodology,
yeah, it's super.
It's a complete paradox.
If you could put one slide in every VC investment memo about growth, what would it say?
There's a limit to the cost per lead you can go down, like you can reduce. And at some point it becomes more of a dream, and you need more magician than actually a growth operator to take prices down. And every I'd say every assumption, either in growing the number of leads or actually reducing the cost of acquisition, needs to be backed by tests and iterations you will do, and which levers you will activate to do so. Because sometimes speaking to founders or speaking to C-levels that have those discussions with VCs, and you can see that they would just say, we need to keep the curve going down for the cost per lead. At some point, we'll go dry in terms of levers we can activate to take those prices down.
Nobody cares about your product at all, right? Like some of the largest deals get done without showing a single demo. It really doesn't matter what features your platform has, what it looks like. Everybody just cares about an outcome. So you need to show them very clearly why you would do a project, because there's change necessary within a business in order to adopt something new. The only thing that matters is outcome.
What was the hardest part about the discovery process?
The hardest part for me is always not to fall in love with your own solutions. You obviously go into this and you're like, we want to solve this problem. Here's how we want to solve it. You're coming up with a solution of some sorts, but you don't want to fall in love with it, because it turns out that that's not necessarily what you go out and develop. And even if it is what you develop initially, it's not what you end up selling. So you can pivot. They say pivot. Pivot sounds like such a hard thing. Oh, we're going to pivot the company. It's 3 people, 4 people, right? It's not a pivot. You just, I have this idea. Let's go do that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you change your opinion quite a bit. So not falling in love with that is one thing, but also keeping an open enough mind to hear what's not being said. You have to be really patient when you have these conversations with people, because you don't want to feed them with everything that you're thinking. You want to discover, you want to have them talk about things. And by the way, this is a mistake that I had made in one of my first customer calls. I wasn't alone on that customer call, but they discussed some billing issues that they had, some revenue architecture issues, which I had seen 5-6 times before. It wasn't a surprise to me. I understood the depth of that problem, so I didn't probe them on that. But for everyone else who was on that call, my other co-founders, they did not necessarily understand the breadth of that problem, how deep it can go and how broad it is. So for me not digging into that problem, that maybe set the wrong viewpoint. And it turns out that when you're asking people, okay, what do you think about my solution, or what do you think about what I'm showing you? A lot of them tend to give you this kind of vanilla answer, like, oh yeah, it looks cool. They're never going to buy.
You had mentioned to me before that there was this sort of back and forth around building in public. That didn't work. Give me the context on that. What did you guys try? What made you decide that it needs to be killed?
We talked a lot about building in public, and I had given it quite a bit of an effort. The question of, did this actually convert anything to a deal? I actually don't think so. And it never broke past that imaginary roof where, you get hundreds of likes on something and a lot of people engaging with it. That never happened. So for me, it wasn't a very good way to do things. I think it's a lot based on luck, if that works or not. And at some point, the building in public content that I see is just, let's call it reaction farming. It's people posting, do you like this very cool design that I did, or this very purposefully ugly one? Or I've done something really weird to this one. Which one do you like best? And people love responding to that. So that's the stuff you kind of see mostly. And I found that it didn't have too much value. So I gave it a shot. I spent a bunch of time on it. Some of the co-founders did as well. And we talked a lot about what we were doing publicly. So all of our features were kind of out there. All of the designs that we were working on, they were out there. We were quite public about that. And I think people were interested in them. Having said that, again, numerically speaking, it didn't convert that well.
But the podcast did.
The podcast was great. Yeah.
At the time, I think you said there was some skepticism around it, but you were part of shaping that. So
Yeah.
What was the decision criteria, and why is it still up and running now?
The podcast was, so that wasn't my idea. That was Manny's idea. He's like, I want to start a podcast. The idea we had originally was a little bit different. We kind of wanted to group different kinds of categories. So we wanted to have, let's have pre-seed, let's have seed, let's have series A, series B, so that everyone can always learn from someone else. We thought of this as kind of like, let's layer these people up so that you always learn something from someone, depending on where you are on this company life cycle. I don't know that that really worked. We ended up scrapping a few episodes that we had filmed because not all of the problems were interesting, and it was kind of hard to build that pipeline up very well. And what really matters with podcasts is pipeline, is making sure you can always drop a new episode every week or every other week or whatever your cadence is, but you can keep that cadence up. So at the beginning, I was just publishing them, whenever, because we would record, I would publish it, 2-3 days later. But then I wanted to start building up this cadence of like a weekly drop. And for that, again, you need like a fairly strong pipeline. And it meant that some weeks we were recording 3 or 4 episodes in a week. Also got very difficult. Like, it's very difficult to sit and talk to someone for an hour and record it. That's the one side. But I was doing all the prep work, researching the people and editing and publishing and the continuous
There's
social.
a lot of time that
So
goes
much
into
work
it.
that goes kind of under the radar with podcasts. Having said that, it was one of the most converting things that we did. So many people would reach out and say, oh, I heard this person on your podcast. Let's talk. And we weren't selling our product on this podcast. It was legitimately just a conversation between 2 or 3 people sometimes.
Do you think that's because it's credibility to the brand, or do you think that's because you're highlighting problems that they maybe didn't know that
That's
they
a
had?
really good question that I don't really know how to answer. Reason being, I'm still on the fence a little bit about podcasts because the ones that I used to listen to, I don't listen to anymore because they tend to be self-serving. There's nothing extreme being said, and I want something that will challenge me. And there aren't a lot of podcasts that still do that. So what we started prioritizing is exactly that. Like, let's challenge the audience a little bit. We would keep the rough bits and a little bit of cursing here and there, and we would try to get something a little bit spicy out of them, where they trash talk or another company or another product or something else. And when that happens, I think that works really well. And then you're giving them a reason to listen.
Yeah, loads of people tell me, like, Jay, I wish I could post what you do. I just have nothing to say. And I always say that's not true. Like, what did you do yesterday? That's it. What did you do yesterday? And what did you learn from it? You can just start there. Like, oh, I called someone. They said they were not interested, but I was able to ask two questions and book the meeting. Like, that is a golden post right there to someone who's for their first 6 weeks as a BDR. Like, just because you think it's normal to you doesn't mean that someone else won't find it valuable.
When it came to trying outbound in the past, what made it the wrong moment?
We didn't crack outbound at the start. Most of the startups I'm talking to, and even when I'm doing advisory, startups are focusing on outbound before they understand even the ICP. And when I was at the start in N10, I was speaking with really top managers in previous startups and really like startups that exploded. And they were telling me, Emilio, like, why are you doing like outbound if you didn't even understand what your inbounds want? First thing first, understand your customer. And first thing first, if you have inbounds, just concentrate on inbounds. Also, I mean, it depends on the number of inbounds that you have. If you have like 2 inbounds a week, probably it's not enough to concentrate there. But I guess it's really important to understand the buyer intent and what brought also the inbound lead to write you to call you, right? Before going out and say, hey, I'm here, this is my product.
Would there be anything that you'd do differently now, looking back?
I would just not do it. I would just focus on what we had at the time.
ABM without signals is just targeted spam. ABM with signals is that you have timing and you have context. And that's the big difference between the two of them. The moment when ABM becomes real is when the sales team is not asking, should I reach out? But they are asking, what do I say? Because they know that the signal is already there. So they know that that's the good moment to reach them.
I hate being the tooling girl. It's a challenge. For me, RevOps are really business partner to head of, so mostly head of marketing and head of sales. So I see my position is head of have a strategy for the department. They need some time to be challenged. And after, the most important part is how do you help them implement the strategy on an operational level? You can have the best strategy if execution on day-to-day operations sucks, then your company is dead. And tools is just a way to implement things on a day-to-day, but you can have so many layers. And so if you just think about tools, it's not a good thing, because at the end, it's everything just about like business and what are the business problems that you need to solve.
It's funny. Not a lot of people know what product marketing actually does. One of their primary jobs will also be constantly educate other departments of the value that product marketing brings. So you're almost a product that you're marketing.
You're
marketing yourself internally.
And that's in the trenches.